The rain fell in relentless grey sheets, turning the city into a watercolour of misery. Huddled in the shallow recess of a closed shop doorway, Lena pulled her thin coat tighter, but it was no use. The damp had already seeped into her bones. At 24, she felt 1,000 years old. Her life had been whittled down to this single desperate point of survival. Beneath the sodden fabric, her body was busy with a miracle she couldn't afford. She was 8 months pregnant. The curve of her stomach was a hard, insistent reality, her greatest fear and her only reason to keep fighting. The sidewalk was a river of oblivious people, their umbrellas forming a moving canopy of black. She was a ghost to them, a piece of urban decay to be stepped around, a gnawing emptiness twisted in her gut, a pain that had long since transcended hunger. It had been days since a full meal. A businessman, sheltering briefly under a briefcase, glanced her way. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She had to ask. "Please," she whispered, the word barely audible. "Could you spare anything?" His eyes, cold and dismissive, swept over her before he turned away, already on his phone. The rejection was a physical chill. Shame washed over her, hot and sharp. But then, a distinct, powerful kick rolled from within, a stubborn reminder. Again, it seemed to say. "For me." She swallowed her pride as a woman hurried past. "Mom, I'm sorry. I'm pregnant. I'm so hungry. Do you have anything left? Anything at all?" The woman's face flickered with a moment's pity before settling into wary neutrality. "I don't carry cash," she said, not unkindly, and quickened her pace. "Anything left?" The phrase echoed in the hollow of Lena's mind. It was a question for God, for the universe, for herself. Was there anything left inside her? Any strength? Any hope? She felt scraped clean. This small, tragic vignette was observed from the dry, silent interior of a Mercedes Maybach. Arthur Vance was a man sculpted from success and sheer will, his 60 years leaving no mark on his tailored exterior. He was late for a meeting that would decide the fate of a multinational corporation, his mind already 3 moves ahead. The traffic on Fifth Avenue was a solid, unmoving block of steel and light. His chauffeur, Charles, waited with practiced patience. Arthur's gaze, ever analytical, scanned the street, cataloguing inefficiencies. It landed on the shop doorway, on the young woman's failed attempts at appeal, her subsequent collapse into herself. A common enough sight, one he had long trained himself to filter out. Human need was a drain on productivity, an illogical variable. He was about to look away when she shifted, and the pronounced swell of her pregnancy was unmistakable beneath the wet cloth. Something jarred loose in Arthur's meticulously ordered mind. It wasn't empathy, a sentiment he considered a strategic flaw. It was a profound sense of dissonance. This level of biological vulnerability, this potential for future contribution, left in a state of such complete systemic failure, was incorrect. It was a flaw in the equation of reality. The traffic lurched forward. Charles eased the car into gear. "Stop the car, Charles," Arthur commanded, his voice quiet but absolute. Charles was startled. "Sir, the board is convening in 15 minutes. "They can wait," Arthur stated, already opening the door. He stepped out into the downpour. The rain immediately began to ruin his Italian loafers and soak his Brioni suit. He seemed not to notice. He walked toward the shop doorway with the same purposeful stride he used to approach a negotiation. Lena saw him coming. A man of such obvious, formidable power, emerging from a car like that, was like a king descending among peasants. Fear, cold and immediate, gripped her. Had she done something wrong? He stopped before her, water streaming down his face. His eyes, a piercing and calculating blue, held hers with an unnerving intensity. He studied her, the pallor, the exhaustion, the fear, and the clear, round shape of her pregnancy. He said nothing. Reaching into his jacket, He produced a slim silver pen and a leather-bound notepad. He wrote a series of digits, tore the page out, and offered it to her. Lena stared, bewildered. Her hand, shaking from cold and nerves, reached out and took the small, damp square of expensive paper. It was a phone number. Beneath it, a single, imperious word was inscribed, "Call." "I don't understand," she stammered. "It is a potential solution," he stated, his voice low and even. "My car will be at the curb for 12 minutes. If you call that number, you will speak to me. The choice is entirely yours." He turned and walked back to the Maybach without a backward glance. The car pulled away. Lena was left alone, clutching the disintegrating note. Her mind raced through a gauntlet of fears. A predator? A trick? Yet he had given her a choice. He had presented a variable. The power to act was hers. She looked to the curb. The car was there, a dark, silent monolith. 12 minutes. Her life had been a series of things happening to her. This was different. This was agency. She found a last stubborn ember of will. For the baby. Always for the baby. Pushing herself up, her legs weak, she walked out into the rain and crossed to the car. She tapped on the window. Charles, looking surprised, lowered it. "I need to make a call," Lena said, her voice trembling. "He said I could." Charles unlocked the doors. "Please get in." The moment the door closed, the world outside vanished into a hushed, temperature-controlled sanctuary. The cold was replaced by a gentle, enveloping warmth. Charles passed her a phone. "The number is ready. Just press to connect." Lena's finger, numb, pressed the screen. "Vance." The voice was exactly as she remembered, controlled, authoritative. "It's, the woman from the doorway," she managed. "I know. Your name?" "Lena." "Lena, are you injured or unwell?" The clinical question threw her. "I'm just so hungry," she whispered, the admission dissolving the last of her composure. Tears welled in her eyes. "Understood. Return the phone to Charles." She did so. Charles listened, his replies quiet and deferential. He ended the call. "We are going to the Aegis residence, ma'am. Mr. Vance has arranged a suite. A doctor is on his way." They arrived at a formidable Art Deco building. A doorman was waiting. The lobby was a temple of quiet opulence. The manager greeted her with neutral courtesy. "Ms. Lena, your apartment on the 35th floor is prepared." The apartment was stunning, all clean lines and breathtaking views. It was overwhelming. A Dr. Evans arrived, her demeanor brisk but not unkind. "You are severely malnourished. The baby is doing well, but you are in a precarious state. You need rest, food, and security." A simple meal of soup, bread, and tea was sent up. Lena ate slowly, her body trembling as it accepted the sustenance. After a long shower, she stood in a thick robe, looking out at the glittering city. She was safe, she was warm, she was fed, and she was utterly confounded. Why? The next morning, a delivery arrived. Comfortable, well-made maternity clothes and a new smartphone. It buzzed with a message. "This device is for your use. My number is stored. Dr. Evans at 3 p.m. A nutritionist at 4 p.m. Remain in the residence. AV." The message was a list of commands. It was care delivered as a strategic plan. Arthur Vance was managing an asset. Days turned into a week. Lena's body began to heal. Color returned to her cheeks. The baby's movements grew stronger, more playful. But her mind was a cage of anxiety. She was an experiment, a line item. She had an ultrasound, a healthy baby girl. She sent a text, a flicker of joy piercing her caution. "The ultrasound was great. It's a girl, thank you." "Lena." The reply was immediate. "Noted." AV noted. The word was a wall. Frustration simmered. She needed to see the architect of this strange new reality. She typed another message. "I would like to meet you. to thank you in person. Unnecessary. The dismissal ignited a spark of anger. It's necessary for me. I am not a project. I need to understand. Her phone rang. Lena, why are you doing this? The question burst out. You represented a critical system failure. I am implementing a corrective protocol. Why my failure? The variables were compelling. Your gestational timeline, your persistence, the operational inefficiency of your circumstances. Inefficiency, she repeated. So I'm an inefficient system you're optimizing? Is the positive outcome invalidated by the rationale? He asked, his tone perfectly level. She was, once again, silenced by his alien logic. I need to see you, she insisted. A pause. Very well. Charles will collect you tomorrow at 1. We will have lunch. The next day, Charles drove her to a private dining room atop a modern art museum. Arthur was waiting, silhouetted against a wall of glass. He gestured to a seat. Your health metrics have improved. Thanks to you, she said. Lunch was served. Nutritious, elegant, simple. You requested a rationale, he began. I do not deal in emotion. I deal in systems, in inputs and outputs. You were a system in a state of catastrophic failure. I have introduced stability. I am monitoring the recovery. The data is instructive. Data? I'm a case study. You are a subject in a unique position. You entered the scenario with minimal confounding variables. My intervention is the single independent variable. Your recovery provides a clean data set on the fundamentals of human resilience. A cold understanding settled over her. He was an engineer, and she was his prototype. And my feelings, my choices, are they just data points? Are they not integral components of the recovery algorithm? He countered. The security, the provisions, these are environmental controls designed to restore a baseline of autonomy. Your presence here demanding answers confirms the controls are effective. She had no rebuttal. The woman from the doorway would never have done this. What happens after the baby is born? Observation will continue. Support parameters will be adjusted for an infant. You will receive permanent housing, a trust for the child's development, capital for you to build a sustainable life. Lena stared, her mind reeling. It was too much. A home? A trust fund? Why? She breathed. You have your data. The system is recovering. Long-term viability is the only metric of success, he said, and she saw a flicker of something in his eyes, a shadow, a fleeting tension. Preliminary data is insufficient. There was a crack in his facade, a hint of something personal. This isn't just about data for you, is it? She ventured softly. His gaze met hers, and for a single, unguarded moment, she saw a deep, old sorrow in the blue depths. It was gone instantly. All actions have a historical context, he said, a clinical response. It is not relevant to the current project. Your meal is getting cold. The nutrients are essential. The audience was over. Back in the apartment, Lena felt more unsettled than before. She began texting him questions about his work, his thoughts. His replies were treatises on market dynamics and logical deconstructions of philosophy. He had no understanding of humor. She once texted a sonogram image. She has your determined look. Lena. Her phone rang minutes later. It was Charles. Ms. Lena, Mr. Vance has requested a genetic test to preclude any biological claim. He assures you it is a formality. Lena laughed, a real hearty sound. Charles, it was a joke. Please tell him it was a joke. I will inform him, ma'am. The test was never mentioned again. As her due date neared, a primal fear took hold. The fear of the unknown, of inadequacy. Late one night she texted him, I'm scared. He replied almost immediately, fear is a physiological response to perceived threat. Dr. Evans confirms your health is optimal. The hospital's success rate is 99.97%. The probability of a positive outcome is overwhelming. She smiled through her anxiety. He had calculated the odds. The odds were good. It's not that. It's the fear of failing her, of not being a good mother. A long silence. Then, the presence of self-doubt is the primary indicator of competency. Faulty systems lack self-awareness. You are capable. The data is conclusive. The tears that came were of profound relief. It was the closest he could come to encouragement, and from him it was a fortress. Labor began on a crisp autumn morning. Charles drove her to the hospital. Everything was prepared. The labor was a long, arduous trial. During the most intense part, a nurse said, "Your friend is outside. He hasn't left." Hearing that, Lena felt a surge of strength. The architect was present, and then, with a final, monumental effort, it was over. A fierce, healthy cry filled the room. "It's a girl," Dr. Evans said, placing the tiny, perfect infant on Lena's chest. She was here. Lena named her Clara. "You lost them," she said, her voice soft. He didn't look at her. His eyes were locked on Clara. He gave a slow, heavy nod. "Isabel," he rasped, "and our daughter. She was 8 months along. A complication during birth, 25 years ago. The mystery of him unraveled, the system failure he couldn't abide, the corrective protocol, the need for long-term data. It was all for them. He wasn't saving her. He was correcting a past he could never fix." He slowly, carefully, freed his finger from Clara's grasp. He placed the stuffed rabbit on the bedside table. "The project parameters are fulfilled," he stated, his voice regaining its steel, though his eyes remained soft. "The observation is concluded. The support structures will remain in place. You are both optimal outcomes." He turned to leave. "Arthur," Lena said. He paused. "Thank you." He gave a single sharp nod. "Her grip is a significant statistical anomaly," he said, and then he was gone. The next day, a courier delivered a portfolio of legal documents, a deed to a bright, secure apartment, the details of a generous trust for Clara, a fund for Lena's future. It was the final report. But paper-clipped to the cover was a handwritten note. "For Clara. May her equations always balance, and her heart forever defy the calculation." A.V. Lena placed the note in Clara's memory box. She had asked for anything left, and the answer had been a future, given by a man who was trying to rebuild his own. The millionaire hadn't shocked everyone with his wealth, but with the shocking, logical, and profoundly human architecture of his broken heart.